Yo, what's up, guys? Today we are watching top 10 air disaster videos of all time. This is 35 minutes. Ooh, that's a long video. And we're gonna watch the whole video. Alright.
The captain pulls up the nose and tries to climb. Captain Kevin Stables is preparing to pilot Emery Worldwide Flight 17. His first officer is George Land. They're hauling freight across the country aboard a 30-year-old DC-8 cargo plane. Hi there. Is that the load plan?
Just before they're finished up and load the last couple of containers, they would give us a list of all the freight containers and how much it weighed and what position on the airplane it was.
There you go, boss.
Then we'd take that information and we would calculate the weight balance on the airplane and make sure that it was all correct.
Airspeed's alive. Alive here. 80 knots. 80 knots. Elevator checks. Just another routine takeoff. V1. Rotate. But as the nose wheel leaves the ground, the DC-8 pitches upward much more steeply than it should. Watch the tail.
They recognize that they have an issue during the course of the airplane actually starting to rotate as it lifts off the runway.
Me too. Positive rate? The sudden takeoff is quickly followed by an uncommanded left bank.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
This is anything but routine.
What the hell? The center of gravity's way out of limits.
They need to return to the
airport as quickly as possible. I don't know.
Emery 17 emergency.
Emery 17, say again?
When a pilot declares an emergency, that really cues an air traffic controller to know that this isn't just an abnormal situation. This is a critical situation.
The ground proximity warning begins to sound.
We're sinking. We're going down, guys.
All right, all right.
Okay, we're going back up.
The DC-8 starts climbing again. Roll out, roll out! But the pilots are still struggling for control.
Emery 17 extreme balance problem.
Emery 17, roger.
The airplane started to go into these big perturbations, dive and then climb, dive and then climb.
They push their control columns all the way forward in a desperate effort to level the plane.
Power. More? Yeah.
Captain Stables and his crew have managed to get their crippled plane to within sight of the runway.
It was working very well. He made it almost all the way around to the backside of the airport. They knew if they could get back to the airport, there was going to be crash, fire, rescue that would have been able then to help them.
They've now got less than a mile to go.
They're still trying to look ahead to figure out what needs to be done next. But they know that sooner or later, they got to get on the ground.
China Airlines Flight 120 is on final approach for landing. They're now less than a minute from the runway.
T20, 10.
It's a textbook landing. All that's left for the China Airlines pilots is to park the plane.
Engine start levers. Engine start levers cut off.
With the engines off, they can finally relax.
Hey, what is this? What's happening?
Just when they thought they were safely parked,
Cockpit, ground. Number 2 engine fire.
A radio call alerts them to an urgent danger. Their plane is on fire.
Attention crew on station. Attention crew on station.
Dynasty 120, we are calling a fire truck. Remain standby.
We have wheel fire, please. Slap lever.
The pilots know they need to get their passengers off the plane before flames reach the fuel tanks.
Oh my god.
But they can't open the cabin doors yet.
Engine fire warning switches. Override.
They must follow an evacuation checklist. Finally, the pilots are ready to open the doors.
Evacuation required now. Required.
No pushing, no pushing. Please keep moving forward.
But it will take time for all 157 passengers to make it to the exit. George Ishizaki is watching the unfolding disaster from inside the airport terminal.
I just happened to have my camcorder with me. I thought, oh my God, what is happening?
The plane has been burning for close to 3 minutes. It could explode at any moment.
Captain, all passengers are evacuated. You're the last one.
Typically, the captain will stay until everybody's off, and he will verify that the airplane is empty.
The pilots have put their passengers' safety first.
Yeah, just go.
But now, it may be too late for them.
You're gonna have to climb up through the window. You first. Sir.
All 737 cockpits are equipped with an emergency escape rope. It's designed to help pilots exit through the side window. But it's no easy maneuver. Then, fire on an airplane can quickly become lethal. Incredibly, on Flight 120, all 165 people on board have escaped unharmed.
All of them are
I've never heard of any evacuation where somebody wasn't hurt. To get this many people off in such a dire circumstance in a very short period of time with no injuries is miraculous.
We have a developing story, as you may have heard. There was a civilian Learjet.
News of a rogue Learjet flying hundreds of miles off course has captivated the nation.
The FAA began tracking an aircraft in distress. The president was made aware of this situation this morning in a meeting with his economic advisors.
Benson here.
Experts at the National Transportation Safety Board are notified of the escalating emergency.
Give me a map. Okay.
Once the air traffic control system realized that the aircraft had gone rogue, so to speak, the next step is to try to figure out why. It's either being hijacked or it's malfunctioned, the crew has been incapacitated somehow.
Controllers scramble F-16 fighters to track down the wayward Learjet. Jim Tidball has come up with a rough calculation of where the plane will run out of fuel.
My best guess is South Dakota. Possibly North Dakota. I can't say more than that.
Let's hope he's right.
With any luck, they won't hit anything.
In the air, the F-16 pilots have caught up with the rogue plane. The windows of the aircraft provide an ominous clue.
No movement and windows covered in frost.
The Learjet is now a ghost plane.
Can we narrow down the crash site anymore?
With no hope for the passengers and crew, the only focus now is on where the plane will come down. According to calculations, the jet is almost out of fuel. At 10 minutes past 12, it happens. The Learjet carrying Payne Stewart and 5 other people is falling from the sky.
They're going down. They're going down.
Where's it gonna hit?
The F-16 attempts to follow, but the plane disappears into the clouds. It drops below the radar.
Center, I've got a crash site.
Oh my god, no way.
Payne Stewart's Learjet has slammed into a hayfield in South Dakota. There are no survivors. Amid growing confusion in the cockpit, the pilots of Flight 2120 still don't know that there's smoke in the cabin.
All they're dealing with is just all the alarm bells going off to indicate that equipment is failing left, right, and center.
But mechanic Jean-Paul Philippe realizes they're in serious trouble. An onboard fire has the potential to consume the entire aircraft in seconds.
So things are rapidly spinning out of control.
Okay, let's get squared away and see what we've got here, please.
In the cabin, it's becoming almost impossible to breathe. And Jeddah is still 11 miles away.
You've lost all hydraulics.
The odds on making it back to the airport are getting slimmer.
Damn it! I've got no ailerons!
Davidge can't steer the plane with no hydraulics.
Okay, hang on, I've got it.
Captain Allen struggles with his control
Hang on.
but it too could fail at any moment.
Let's get lined up before things get any worse.
Okay, so we're at 2,000 feet now, declaring an emergency.
We are having flight control problems.
Roger, I thought you were Southeast 738.
Only now does the controller realize that the troubled aircraft is the Nation Air flight.
Turn left right now, heading
080, expect runway 34 left.
By this time, it's pandemonium inside the cabin. Passengers are being engulfed by flames, and bodies are starting to fall from the aircraft fuselage.
The plane is right over Jeddah, a city of 2 million people.
Bodies were falling out of the aircraft 11 miles from the airport.
Okay, sir, we're having trouble turning. We are having flight control problems. We will try to turn left. We are having flight control problems.
In the situation, it would have made certainly controlling the aircraft for approach and landing very, very difficult.
How much further? 10 miles. 1,700 feet.
Choking for air, some passengers try to open the doors. At this speed, it's impossible.
Jeddah 2120, clear to land, runway
34 left.
Okay, we're coming straight in. We'll land on the left. Require emergency vehicles immediately. We have a fire. We will be ground evacuating.
Jeddah 2120, clear to land, any runway, clear to land.
There it is, it's 2 miles out. All right, let's get on the ground. I've lost elevators. Christ, I have no control. Landing gear down.
The fiery explosion and sudden impact with the ground has all but obliterated Flight 2120. "247 passengers and 14 crew members are dead. This is the worst accident ever for a Canadian airline. And the deadliest crash of a DC-8 in history.
How much fuel have we used?
Flight engineer Gilles Jardinot keeps a vigilant eye on fuel consumption.
We've got 800 kilos.
Concorde burns through it at an astonishing rate. In the short taxi to the runway, the plane's 4 engines have already used as much fuel as the average car uses in 6 months. Booking a seat on the famed jet requires deep pockets. The return fare to New York costs more than $9,000.
It was not something unaffordable for those people we had on board. Some of them, I tell you, they didn't even know how much they were paying.
Air France 4590, runway 26 right, clear for takeoff.
4590, cleared for takeoff. 26 right.
The tower controller today is Gilles Longelin.
I was stationed in the southern control tower, which has a very good view over the two runways that we use. This day was the same as usual. I gave him the takeoff clearance.
The first officer tells the captain they've reached V1, or decision speed. They're now going too quickly to abort the takeoff.
You cannot stop anymore. You have to go on. You have to continue takeoff, whatever happens.
Suddenly, the plane begins veering left.
Stop!
The flight engineer urges the captain to abort the takeoff, but it's too late to stop. Captain Marty lifts the supersonic jet into the air. Gilles Longelin realizes he's now watching a disaster.
It was a very unexpected situation to see flames on an aircraft that is departing on the runway. You don't have time to lose, so immediately I've pushed the red button, which is a button for alert.
4590, you have flames behind you.
Roger!
The plane is engulfed in flames.
Failure! Engine 2! Engine fire procedure!
Captain Marty struggles for control as the engineer shuts down the burning engine and activates a fire extinguisher.
What's the airspeed?
The plane's airspeed is now dangerously low.
The airspeed!
Something is happening. Something that is not covered by training. Something that in pilot career you don't want to face.
First Officer Marco wants to head for a nearby airport.
Le Bourget!
But the crew can't outfly the fire that is rapidly consuming their plane. The supersonic marvel of modern aviation. Slams into an airport hotel.
Like you see kind of big, like a big mushroom of smoke. I think until the very last moments I was thinking that something will save the situation.
August 7th, 1997. Fine Air Cargo Flight 101 prepares to take off from Miami to the Dominican Republic. At 12:30 p.m., when Flight 101 taxis to its runway, First Officer Petrosky recites a familiar drill.
Good. Standard flying out procedure. There's a problem prior to V1, which is 130 knots. The pilot in command will abort the airplane. Treat anything after V1 as an in-flight emergency.
Sounds good.
At 12:34, the tower makes contact.
Fine Air 101, fly heading 270, cleared for takeoff.
Clear takeoff 27 right.
Fine Air 101 heavy.
Okay, full spooled and stable. Max power.
Okay, coming up on 60 knots, power set. 80. V1. Rotate.
Plane lifts off the runway.
Easy, easy.
Easy, easy, easy. You're up.
The air traffic controller is alarmed by what he now sees.
What's going on? Whoa, whoa.
The crew fights to get the plane under control.
Too low. Here. Too low. Too low. Terrain.
Stop.
Too low. Terrain. Pull up.
No!
Where's your emergency? Yes, there's been a plane crash at 72nd and 25th.
It's the unthinkable. A plane crash in the heart of Miami. The plane's three-man crew and security guard are confirmed dead. Cathay Pacific Flight 780 is cruising at 38,000 feet over the South China Sea. Captain Malcolm Waters and his crew are nearing the end of a 4.5-hour flight from Indonesia to Hong Kong. 165 miles from Hong Kong Airport, the Airbus leaves cruising altitude and begins its descent. And then something goes wrong. The flight computer is alerting the pilots to a problem.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Engine 2 stall.
The plane's monitoring system indicates there's an issue with the right engine. Engine number 2. With no explanation for the incident, Captain Waters reduces power on the engine to idle to protect it from damage.
Idle.
The lowest possible power level while still keeping it running. The pilots prepare to land the Airbus with only one engine. Everything is set for an emergency landing. But then, another alert and more vibrations.
Engine 1 stall.
Engine 1 stall confirmed.
Things have gone from bad to worse. The monitoring system indicates they've just lost the other engine. The one they were counting on to get the plane to Hong Kong. The monitoring system tells the pilots to put the malfunctioning engine number 1 into idle. They are a minute from touchdown. Then, another alert.
It's overspeed.
It's an overspeed warning, a signal the aircraft is flying too fast. Captain Waters can't figure it out. They should be slowing down. He rechecks the controls. Then he sees it. Engine number 1, which he throttled back minutes earlier, is still running at 74% power. High thrust, too high to land safely.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
Their speed is over 100 miles per hour faster than normal. So fast, the flight computer doesn't recognize that the pilots are trying to land. Captain Waters pushes the nose down, forcing the Airbus onto the runway. The Airbus is getting close to the end of the runway. To a halt just a short distance from the water's edge. They've used up more than 8,800 feet, over 1.5 miles of runway.
Once the aircraft did stop, there's a look of what the hell just happened.
It's a rough ride aboard a 737 on descent in New Orleans. A violent thunderstorm has caught the pilots off guard.
As the flight attendants to take their seats.
Flight attendants, please take your seats.
Suddenly, less than 17,000 feet from the ground, the flight becomes all the more terrifying.
We've lost power on the engines. I've got nothing.
The plane has enough speed to glide, but not for long. It will rapidly lose altitude as it does. The crew has only one option left.
I guess I'm gonna have to make a ditching here, sir.
They must take their chances and put the plane down on the water.
Tackle 110, roger. Whatever you need to do, sir.
That was about the last communication with the tower. Then we were like 1,500 feet when that was going on.
Giordano plans to put the plane down in the canal directly ahead of him.
Okay. There. Put it down softly.
The 737 can only stay in the air for another minute. As Giordano looks for a safe stretch of canal to drop the plane in, another option appears.
Look at that one over there.
And then Lopez saw the levee parallel to the canal that we were making the approach on.
Can we put it down on the grass? Yes, boss.
The levee is much shorter and narrower than a runway, but it looks safer than the water.
That's where we're going to go in? You got it, my friend. Okay, put the gear down. All right.
But Captain Giordano is still flying towards the water. To have any hope of landing on the levee, he needs to make a sudden and dramatic course correction. That requires a risky maneuver known as a side slip.
So we just had to do a little bit side slip to get into position to make a perfect landing.
It's a move meant for small planes and gliders, not a 47-ton Boeing 737. But it's a risk he has to take. Only 700 feet separate the plane from the ground. Without engines, the pilots have no thrust reversers to slow the plane when it touches down. Giordano has an additional challenge. With only one eye, he's unable to gauge depth as he speeds towards the narrow rain-soaked strip of grass. There's a high cement wall in front of the levee and a steep embankment on the left. There may not be enough room to land.
Watch out for the wing on that side. I see it. Come on. Aquí te tengo, baby. Aquí te tengo.
El aterrizaje fue espectacular. El avión.
The landing was spectacular. The plane landed so smoothly. There wasn't even a bit of turbulence.
No hubo ninguna ni media turbulencia.
A perfect landing.
Perfecto.
January 2009. U.S. Airways Flight 1549 departs New York's LaGuardia Airport. There are 150 passengers on board, bound for Charlotte, North Carolina.
The aircraft took off uneventfully, and very shortly after takeoff, they lost all engines as a result of birds.
I caught something out of the corner of my eye, and slightly to our right, but still ahead of us, was a line of birds. And they were very, very close, too close for us to maneuver around.
After quickly assessing the situation, Captain Sully Sullenberger and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles realized that without engine power, they're not going to make it to any nearby airport.
We're going to be in the Hudson.
Brace for impact.
You need to be aware of your brace position. In many, many accidents, the cabin crew are trying desperately to get the passengers into the brace position, but because the passengers haven't read the safety features card, they don't know what that means.
Get your heads down and stay down!
proper brace position is knees together, feet flat on the floor, body bent as far forward as possible, with arms wrapped under the legs or braced against the seat in front of you.
Your body's going to be thrown forward. So if you can get yourself into that position beforehand, the amount of movement back and forth is going to be reduced and the level of injury will be less.
In the cabin, the passengers prepare for the inevitable.
All the passengers really started kind of pulling together, and somebody yelled out as we were going down,
"Be ready at the doors!"
The folks at the door says, "We're ready."
Clay Presley does what all passengers should. He stays calm and tries to think ahead.
So I started thinking about, if we're going to crash, I know I need to figure out where the exit rows are. If the water comes in, you need to be able to hold your breath long enough to get to those 4 or 5 rows and get the doors open if you can.
But before anyone can escape, they must first survive a high-speed impact.
It looked like the airplane was going right for the bottom of the Hudson River. Then the airplane popped up, and it was just sort of gently rocking in the waves.
In an instant, the $75 million plane has become an unlikely boat floating down the Hudson River. It's now filling with freezing water.
That water was cold. It was very cold. That's why your feet are freezing.
You land in the Hudson in the middle of the winter, the water is going to be very cold and you're going to suffer from hypothermia very quickly. Their feet and their hands will get numb. They're going to be useless.
Passengers nearest the exits open the doors.
I just jumped up very quickly and started making my way to the emergency door. And so I worked my way out onto the wing, just a few steps to start with.
Fortunately, they had slide rafts rather than just slides, so what they were able to do was evacuate passengers into the slide rafts.
In the end, all 150 passengers and the entire crew of Flight 1549 are brought to safety. Another example of how serious aviation accidents often end well. Asiana Flight 214 is nearing the end of an overnight flight from Seoul, Korea to San Francisco. Ben Levy is a frequent flyer returning home.
I fly pretty often for business or visiting my family. I'm originally from France, and so, I fly long distance a lot. I fly in and out of SFO a lot. So I know the airport very well.
Many of the other 291 passengers are Chinese, including a group of teenagers on their way to summer camp in the United States.
Asiana 214 Heavy, runway 28 left, cleared to land.
Landing checklist complete. Clear to land. On glide path.
The pilots check a set of lights beside the runway that can help guide them to a safe landing.
Check.
The plane is less than a minute from the runway when Ben Levy realizes something is wrong.
I remember noticing that there's a small pier that extends out of the runway, and I'm like, wow, we're very low. And I dismissed the thought, thinking, well, what can go wrong? There's all the technology on board to make sure that those guys don't mess up.
In the cockpit,
speed!
A crisis hits.
I got control. Oh, God, go around!
The captain pulls up the nose and tries to climb. Has torn the tail off the body of the plane. An engine is burning. If fire spreads to the fuel tanks, the plane could explode.
Let's see if we can open this door.
But getting down to the ground will not be easy.
I'm expecting at that point to see a slide open, right?
slide, the whole, like, you open the door, the slide is gonna open, and there's no slide.
Whoa. Okay. Help each other. Come on.
Luckily, some crumpled pieces of the fuselage have formed a makeshift set of stairs. Ben Levy stays by the door to help the other passengers climb down.
Come on.
At San Francisco International Airport, runway 28L is a disaster zone. Fire crews battle to keep flames from consuming the fuselage of Asiana Flight 214. With rescuers now on board to help the injured, Ben Levy finally heads to safety.